Tonight we're going to talk about the state of District 150. During the past summer, there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of turmoil, but school has started, and we have two individuals who have volunteered to take over the leadership of our community during these trying times. Tonight I have with me, sitting immediately to my right, Chuck Fabish. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you.
And Ken Hinton. These are two individuals that hopefully you have read about, heard about, but most importantly have been affected because they have been a part of this community for a long time and have been in some very key positions and have had a great impact in terms of the quality of education in this community and therefore the quality of education that our children receive. Chuck, can you take a few minutes and share with our audience your background and what you've been doing and how you happen to be in the position you're in today?
Andre, I'd be glad to, and I want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the things that Ken Hinton and I are attempting to do. So,
okay.
Actually, I'm a lifelong Peorian, and I grew up in a number of schools that will be familiar to many of your viewers, some which are around and some aren't. But I attended Harrison, Webster, Greeley, and then schools like Douglas and Lee that have long since been demolished. Eventually ended up going out to the Woodrow Wilson area and also to Richwoods. But I had an opportunity to actually be in classes with some wonderful teachers that I can say without a doubt had an influence on the person I was to become. They made a difference in my life. I went on to teach physics, chemistry, but also some math in the central Illinois area, including at Woodrow Wilson back in Peoria. I taught at Woodruff for 11 years, about the best 11 years I ever had in teaching. It was just fantastic. And then I was fortunate enough to work for Dr. Jerry Brookhart in the Regional Office of Education, which works not only administratively with Peoria Public Schools, but the other 17 districts in Peoria County. It's kind of an intermediate agency of the State Board of Education. Took an early retirement and have been enjoying doing workshops and actually doing some teaching at the jail, which has probably been as educational for me as the people I'm working with. But that would be at a GED level. So I've had an opportunity to work with students in alternative settings, but certainly in what we call traditional settings too. And hope to be able to use that diversity of experience to help 150 move forward.
Well, I'm certain, Chuck, I've followed your career as you've worked in various capacities here in the Peoria area, both on the county as well as with the school district. And I'm glad you're a homie. And a homie is a term given to a homeboy. Again, there's always a lot of criticism about folks coming into the community who don't know the community and so forth, but certainly having grown up here, being a product of District 150, as well as being a part of District 150, I'm certain that you bring a wealth of experience and knowledge and perceptions, as well as goals and dreams that you would like to see our community move toward, because this is part of your community and this is your school system. And I'm glad that you recognize that there were teachers who certainly were motivators, because teachers can either kill a dream or give a child a dream, and I think that's why it's important that we do have good teachers that understand kids and accept kids for being what they are, and more important, what they can be, and to take them where they are and then move them up to what they can be. And as I remind our viewers that the first parent is the first teacher is the parent.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they play a key role, and they're part of the whole team that is a part of educating our children. We just can't depend upon the school system to do everything for our children, but we too must partner with the school district and become actively involved. And I'm glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
Ken, you want to share some of your background with our viewers?
Thank you, Andre, and it's great to be here with you and Chuck and have the opportunity to speak to our very fine school system. I was born and raised in Peoria, been a Peorian all my life, went to the Peoria Public Schools. I started my educational career at Washington School on Moss Avenue. From there I went to Lincoln. From Lincoln, when we had an abundance of students, we had split days, and so I was bused from Lincoln to Irving School, went to Irving, then back to Lincoln, then from Lincoln to Roosevelt, from Roosevelt to Manual, and then from Manual to Bradley. it's been a most unique experience in terms of living here in Peoria. I think this is one of the most wonderful communities that we have in this country. I can truthfully say that not only did I have fine parents and great teachers, but I'm an example of being, it says it takes a village to raise a child. No matter where I went in Peoria, people either knew my family or knew where I was from. So I was being watched by the community. So it's a great opportunity to be here this afternoon and to speak to you.
Well, again, I want to personally let the two of you know that I am delighted that your names were the ones that came to the top in terms of serving during this interim period as we begin our search for a new superintendent, and hopefully we'll continue to even go to higher heights as a community as well as our educational system. And I was aware that some controversy was even associated with it, but I just want to let you know that I'm glad that your dream was much greater than your personal comfort, and I know that there were some people who embraced your appointment as well as some people who were critical. But knowing the two of you as well as I know you, and just based upon what you've said, I can't think of a better answer and solution to what we now have going on. And I'm glad that there's the two of you. I'm glad it is a team because, as I tell people in my workshops, team stands for together each achieves more.
That's
I think
right.
that both of you individually could probably provide leadership, but I think collectively we can't help but to be a winner in our community. And most important, our kids benefit from what I think is a quality educational system that certainly needs some twixing and some finessing, but can certainly be a #1 school system. Just a few weeks ago, our doors opened for our schools. What would you assess as being the environment that the teachers and administrators and the kids were in as school began? Do either of you have any comments based upon things that you've either seen, observed, or heard from the various personnel with District 150?
Andre, from the remarks that we've received thus far, we're hearing that the morale in terms of the teachers and the District 150 staff is high. When we come to work in the morning and we see children walking to school in the schools that we visited, things seem to be going extremely well. We're very pleased. At the beginning of the opening of school, Chuck and we met with our staff, and we basically let it be known, as we have been saying to the community as a whole, we are here to serve, support, and to see to it that our staff and our children are successful in terms of student achievement, and making it a reality that schools are an integral part of a community, and that our responsibility is to serve and to support. So I would say, as a whole, things are very good.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I was certainly hoping as well as praying that when the school doors open, that our children would be able to enter safely and enter for the purpose of not just being in a building, but to receive a good education. And I really felt comfortable that the two of you, in terms of your positions of power, whatever power you have, and again, you can't control what comes out of a kid's mouth, you can't control what comes out of a teacher's mouth, but hopefully you can affect the environment so that it can become as positive as it possibly can, so that learning can take place and respect can take place.
I took a trip to Elkhart, Indiana today. Elkhart's a place that has lost jobs faster than anywhere else in America. In fact, local TV stations have started running public service announcements that tell people where to find food banks, even as the food banks don't have enough to meet the demand.
of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. For the next hour and a half, 2 hours, I would like to take, that's a joke. That's a joke. Only about 15 minutes. I'll be about 15 minutes. Is that okay? All right. Loosen up a little bit. Okay? All right. Is everyone having a good time? I'm trying to feel you out right now before I get going here. I want to thank Kyle. You know what? He gave me that big bio. I only sent it because they wanted it. But I'm just a guy from Peoria trying to succeed in this city while helping others succeed as well. But this guy is the Rick Ross of ICC. Do you know that? I mean, every day he is hustling and hustle. I mean, he's driving all over town trying to help people with education. Let's give him a big hand for his position here at ICC. My man, Agbar Bryson. Let's give him a big hand for everything that he's doing. Many of you may not know this, but we are actually related. Seriously. We are connected by a slave master in our lineage, Mr. Bryson. And look at that. Two of his distant grandsons are making impact in Peoria together. So now that's Black history. All right. Lastly, I want to thank someone who I like to put on the level of Rosa Parks and many other great women who served, slaved, and sacrificed in this nation, Dr. Rita Ali. Now, I don't, tear up in public, but if I talk a lot about her and what she means to me, I may choke up a little bit. So I won't do that. And but I want to thank you for everything that you're doing at the school, in the city, and everything that you've done for me. Okay? All right. How many college students do we have in here? Raise your hands. College students. College students. Okay. Good, good, good. High school students. Okay. All right. This is for you too. Now, before I get to my speech, I need you to help me out here. I need to know if getting an education, and be honest, has been pretty hard. Has it been hard? Raise your hands. It's okay. It's been pretty hard. Now, you can, okay, good. Just real quick, I just need a few people to tell me how hard it's been and why. Just raise your hands and tell me. Go ahead. Being able to afford it. Okay, anyone else? So multitasking, not having the time needed. Anyone else? I mean, these are great, general answers, but I need some real stuff too here. Not saying that's not real, but yes. Okay. All right. How about some personal issues that get in the way? Any personal issues ever get in the way of school? Waking up in the morning. Anybody else? I'm sorry? Family. Balance between life and school. Bullies. Seizures. Yeah, that's serious. Getting an education can be tough, right? It can be tough with the many issues that we face in our lives. People trying to break in while you're studying. The balance between life and work. Some of our own personal issues. Some of us are in school because our parents want us to be, and we really don't care about getting an education. I want to focus today briefly on the emancipation of Black American education. And I need you to help me out here. I need you to help imagine Okay? Imagine growing up being unable to read and write. Can you imagine that? Imagine growing up under state laws where it was illegal for blacks in the South to receive a formal education. You think you got it tough? Imagine, put yourselves in their shoes. Could you imagine growing up like Frederick Douglass, before he was the great abolitionist, before he was the eloquent, articulate, intelligent statesman who dined with Abraham Lincoln and worked under other presidents? He was a slave who had no right to receive an education. Like many slaves during his time, education was shackled and locked up. And like many slaves during his time, education needed to be emancipated. Though education was not freely offered to Southern blacks, this didn't stop them from attaining education. You see, Frederick Douglass got his education secretly. He had a slave master who had a wife that took time to give him lessons. And when his master found out, he stopped the lessons. But because Frederick Douglass at a young age knew that education was his ticket to freedom, he didn't allow his master to stop him. Frederick Douglass, my man Frederick Douglass, Frederick Douglass would trick his white childhood friends in giving him their homework. At a young age, before he became this great man, this young child valued education so much. He was committed to the point that he would do whatever he needed to do to read, to write, and to learn. To the college students today, I want you to remember people like Frederick Douglass and many other slaves like him who had to endure many things just so you can get up, come here, and receive an education. Remember this when you're deciding to give up. Remember this when you're deciding to drop out. Remember this when things seem so tough that you just want to take a break, knowing that you're not going to get back to it. Remember what people like Frederick Douglass went through just to receive a simple education. Instead of giving up, have the passion and commitment like Frederick Douglass to do whatever you need to do to get the job done. Do whatever you need to do to submit your homework. Do whatever you need to do to get that degree. Could you imagine facing the challenges that Booker T. Washington faced? Before he was the founder of the Tuskegee Institute, before he had financial support from many wealthy white men to support his school so that blacks could be educated and have economic gains, before he became a wealthy, well-known speaker who had the torch passed to him after Frederick Douglass died as the leading voice of black people in the country, Booker T. Washington was born a slave and had the same issues and faced the same issues that slaves faced. But after he was freed, like many other freed slaves, Booker T saw the value of education. After he decided to go to college, he didn't have his parents drop him off at the dorm, give him hugs goodbye, some money in his pocket. You know what he did? He traveled 300 miles on foot. He hitched buggy rides and jumped railroad cars to get to Hampton Institute. Now that's commitment. You think you have it tough today? Look at people like Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. Look at what they had to go through in order to get an education. I'm sure since Booker T. was committed to getting an education, he probably didn't go to class late, 10 to 15 minutes late, every single day. He probably didn't intentionally sit in the back of the classroom to goof around or fall asleep. You see, he knew that even though he finally had the right to be educated, it was still a privilege for him to be educated because there were many other blacks who did not have the opportunity. You think you have it tough? Put yourselves in their shoes. I want you to remember people like Booker T. Washington. The next time you just want to put it on cruise control, the next time you just want to slack off in school, think about people like him. Could you imagine facing the Jim Crow laws that W.B. Du Bois faced in college? Before he became the pioneer for civil rights, before he was the founder of the NAACP, before he became an influential writer, teacher, and renowned intellectual, W.B. Du Bois faced the unjust laws of Jim Crow, like many other blacks in the South, while getting his college education. But despite the segregation, the hatred, the unfair stipulations that blacks faced in the South, he graduated from Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and received his bachelor's degree. Then he transferred to Harvard, and because credits didn't transfer from Fisk, he had to receive another bachelor's degree. Then he started his graduate work at Harvard, traveled to the University of Berlin, came back, and ended up being the first African American with a PhD from Harvard University. Check this out. He did this all before the turn of the 20th century in 1895. Even in the hostile environment that this country created because of inequality, he received multiple degrees. By 1895. And we don't want to catch the bus. I know as black students today, you may face some underlying racism and prejudice. You may deal with some favoritism. We've come a long way as a country, but yes, we still have a long way to go. There's still some stuff out there that we have to deal with. But when you compare what we have to deal with today to what Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, and W.B. Du Bois had to deal with, this is a piece of cake. Don't you agree? I mean, I know someone tried to break into your house, and that's tough. But imagine facing lynchings every day when you stepped out. I know balancing life and work is tough, but imagine not having the financial means to get around, to take care of yourself like some other college students. I want you to remember people like W.B. Du Bois, when you're being treated unfairly in school. I want you to remember people like W.B. Du Bois. When you don't think you can make it in your environment, I want you to think about people like W.B. Du Bois. When you feel that people are trying to hold you back, you need to make up in your mind today that you will not allow any person, you will not allow any place, and you will not allow anything to keep you from getting your education. We have opportunities today that they didn't have back then. We really have no excuse. In his famous book called The Souls of Black Folk, W.B. Du Bois wrote, the opposition to Negro education in the South was at first bitter and showed itself in ashes, insult, and blood. For the South believed, and I love this, for the South believed an educated Negro to be a dangerous Negro. Do you get that? People slaved, served, and sacrificed. People put their lives on the line. People did not want blacks to excel in education because they knew they would be dangerous. What type of student are you? Do you want to be weak-minded? Do you want to be a slacker? Or do you want to be dangerous and use this knowledge as power to not only help you help your family, but to help other people excel as well? Think about that. Thank you.